All right, what's up, everybody? It's BTC passing off as Bitcoin. Bitcoin Core developers getting sued here by Dr. Craig Wright. Let's do an open forum on a freaking Friday X Space. Jump into a kind of an open roundtable and let's hear some discussions. It looks like Kurt just finished up an X Space talking about the conversation regarding the case, and there's a lot of open-ended questions here that need to get resolved, including some of the stuff I talked about yesterday on the video, which I'll go ahead and open up with as I start the space and recap on some of the. Actually, the video is coming out today. It's actually about going to be about the champagne passing off case, and I'm going to read through some of that, and we'll break it down on what I would call a private right of action or a lane to come in on, potentially for Dr. Wright to bring a case like this. So let's check it out. I'll see you on the inside at the top. Yeah, so check this out. All right, so here's the background about what's going on. We got this back in the 1950s. There was a group of 12 French companies producing wine. They uh, they were in a district called the Champagne District. This is back in looks like in England and Wales. And so they represented themselves and other companies, producers, and they, as the Champagne winery, as like the Champagne brand. And it seems like, where we get the name Champagne come from today. This concept of this brand Champagne actually came from this district back in the 1950s, uh, England and Wales, from these 12 French companies producing wine. So so these guys all got together and they found out that there was a company called Costa Brava Wine Company, and they were selling champagne, Spanish champagne wine. And they were making a lot of money. They were killing it. They're saying, yeah, we got this Spanish champagne wine. And so people are buying this wine called Spanish champagne, and these 12 French companies producing wine in the Champagne district said, "Hey, these guys are using our good name, our reputation that we worked on so hard in developing, and they're making money on it. They're passing off on it." Now, their claim was that, well, we don't own the Champagne district. We didn't create the Champagne district. We're not the founder of the Champagne district. And so it was rather complicated. It was kind of a tricky case. So the other side, the defendants, which would be the Costa Brava Wine Company, they said, hey, these guys over there in the 12 French companies called Bollinger, famous Bollinger Wine Company now, they said those guys have no standing. They can't bring this type of a case about passing off because they did not create the Champagne wine district. They just benefited from it. They just had some goodwill from it, but they didn't make it. They didn't own it. That's not theirs. They have no right to sue and get damages for us using that name. It wasn't theirs. That was their defense. Sounded like a pretty reasonable defense when I'm reading this case. 1959. So the defendants, so basically what happened was the court, so the plaintiff claimed that there was no exclusive right needed for Champagne. They said that Champagne was, open, but it had to be, it was like they didn't own it and it wasn't exclusive. So like, meaning that it was part of their goodwill. It was part of their goodwill. That was all it was. It wasn't something they owned. Defendants had an exclusive right. Defendants claimed that they had an exclusive right to the name and they needed it for passing off. And that defendants said that passing off required confusion with specific plaintiff goods. And so they figured the defendants say, well, we got Spanish champagne. You guys are selling champagne. That's not the same thing. Spanish champagne is different. I said, well, wait a second. Champagne, the brand that we created, is well known around this region, and therefore people are buying it. And now they're buying Spanish champagne thinking that it's ours. And I said, so this goes to court, and it actually goes on a motion to dismiss. And so the hearing was where, so the defendants, the company called Costa Brava Wine, they brought a motion to dismiss, and they said, we don't think these guys can state a claim on this, judge, because they don't have standing to bring an action like this, and they don't own the champagne brand. They didn't create the champagne brand, and therefore they can't claim that we're passing off on it because they got no standing. And, so the court reviewed the actually the trial court agreed with them. So it actually went, and they lost at the trial court, and they dismissed the case. They had to appeal to the appeal judge in the UK at that time. And it's a published decision now in 1960 called Bollinger J versus others. I'm sorry, Bollinger J and others versus Costa Brava Wine Company. And the judge emphasized in his ruling that based upon so basically the passing off claim was allowed to proceed. And that the judge emphasized in his ruling that if he assumed the facts, he didn't determine the deception of whether or not the Spanish champagne term was deceptive, but he allowed the claim to go forward, claiming what was called this term called not hearsay, but quasi. It's a quasi. They called it a quasi passing off claim. And last night, I'm writing this in an X post, replying to one of Dr. Wright's posts, and I said, looks like there's a lane. I said there's like a legal loophole to bring a case like this. And then he responded back abrasively, and he said, it's not a legal loophole. It's it's a well-settled law. And I said, okay, that's probably an inappropriate description the way I described it. Not a legal loophole. It's more of a settled private right of action to bring a quasi passing off claim. Quasi meaning is what the court's saying is, well, they don't necessarily own, they didn't own Champagne District. Dr. Wright doesn't own Bitcoin. He's not Satoshi. He did not create Bitcoin. He doesn't have the intellectual property over Bitcoin. Therefore, according to this court ruling, it still establishes a lane, like a private right of action to bring a case like this, because it's well-settled law in the UK, and it looks like it goes way back. But this case is definitely a good one. There's another one after this, I think in 1974, that was similar. So that was kind of like this a little bit. But yeah, I just wanted to bring this up to people's attention because it looks like there is what would be called a private right of action to bring a case like this. And I would say it's definitely something to consider. Now I need to fix my recording before I bring people up on stage. Okay, so let me see how I can do that. I'll stop my screen share and I'll fix that really quick. Okay, that's better. I wasn't even recording. All right. So anyways, what happened here is this Kraken case. So in 2022, if you guys remember, this case was initiated for passing off, where Wright, it was Dr. Craig Stephen Wright International, and Wright Investments. They sued Hayward Inc., Hayward Ventures Inc., and so this would have been the Coinbase and the Kraken case. And it was combined to that Satoshi case. So this case was combined to the Satoshi case. This case went forward and it made it past the pleadings. And then it was held up because Craig was found not to be Satoshi, so it never got heard. All right. So it's basically on hold over there. And so now he's went ahead and brought it in his own capacity, not as the creator of Bitcoin, because he's not Satoshi, and he's coming under this special settled, I'd say this well-settled law under this case that we just talked about. So yeah, Kraken, they wrote back, and what they wrote was, I have a little summary on their defense, dude. It's pretty interesting. So this is probably what they're going to write when these guys come forward. Now, we know that this case is not about Satoshi. So the first thing they're going to try to do is they're going to try to bring that up, because that's like requested. Crypto Voyager. Come on up, dude. Go ahead.
Hi, Gavin.
Crypto Voyager.
How are you doing? How are you doing today?
Living the dream.
I that's good. That's good. I just have a question to the litigant in person. Does that really mean that he's gonna be there all alone, all by himself, him against the world, trying
Yeah,
to get 911 billion pounds?
he's representing as the attorney of the case. So he is actually acting as the attorney, in fact, over this case. And whether he's licensed to do that, I don't know. I know he's got a lot of licenses and degrees, so I really don't know his background on that, but he is 100% going to be the attorney on this case.
And then I have another question. In the lawsuit, it says his. It starts uh, with the disabilities that he says he's an autist and wants everything written. Is that a thing? So could this be a trial that will just go back and forth in writing without any audition? I mean, not audition, but oral arguments.
Yes, because here's why. Couple things. Now, okay, we
So
can talk about
just
from,
wait, just wait. This is possible.
yes,
I'm just asking you if that is possible. That is an avenue that can be done. The
it's
thing is,
possible.
I've only seen. Okay, it's not good for television because you can't have any actors in it. It's just written then. But okay, cool. Continue. Sorry.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. Yeah. So one of the things I brought this up on my law group, a law group that I have on Tuesday night, which is just basically some lawyers, they get together and they talk about law. And I brought this case in front of them and I showed this to them and I showed them the concept of Craig about the autism, aspect. And they immediately, chuckled about it and they said, "Oh, that's BS or whatever." And I said, okay, maybe it is. But if he has doctor's letters, if he has actual doctors to testify to it with doctor's testimony, then your opinion doesn't matter. Say whatever you want. That he's got doctors to say that that is a problem for him. So therefore, it could be. And so yeah, it's at the beginning. It's in the States, it's under the Americans with Disabilities Act, and in California, there's a specific rule on this where you actually apply to the court in a specific way. Now, I don't know the form and the procedure in the UK on this, but here in the States, you apply to the court for special accommodations. And those special accommodations can be general, and they can be liberally applied. If the person is diagnosed with this type of autism, severe autism, and they can prove it, meaning that they got doctors testifying to it, like real licensed practitioners that are credible, and they'll submit under oath, this is true about this person, they have these problems. Well, the court has no, unless there's an objection, the court has nothing else to object to. They can't stop that. They will grant it because the court's not a doctor and they're going to take whatever the doctor said as true, and they'll usually grant the relief that's requested if it's reasonable. And what there's in California, now California is always ahead of all, I would say, everybody in litigation because there's so much litigation. It's a huge state, goes back to 1849, and it just moves incredibly fast. So in California, they've escalated, specifically, I'd say in Sacramento. No, that's the capital. They've kind of paved the way for what's called litigation through pleadings, meaning that the courts got closed down for like a year out here in 2020 or so. Literally, we would go to the courthouse, they would say closed. And it was so frustrating. It was so frustrating because they're not supposed to do that. The Constitution says they're supposed to be open. And so when they were closed, they got backlogged like no other. And so now they're still catching up. Years later, they're still catching up. And so what they've done is they've done more. They want more litigation on the pleadings than a trial. They want basically no hearings. I've seen cases go on for years without any hearings. They only do the pleadings. They only write to the court back and forth, and the court does what's called tentative rulings. And then, unless there's an extreme situation, they just issue the ruling, and that's it. And then you can, have your next hearing. It's all on the papers. There's no hearing. So, I would say it's definitely something that can happen in the way of not having pleadings there. So yeah, but the one thing I wanted to bring up was the Kraken case because it's relevant to this decision, and they already replied to this type of case. So let me just pull up really quick what they said. It says, okay, on Kraken, let's see, dude, Kraken's case. Thought I had a summary on it already. Oh yeah. So what I was starting out with was this passing off. It's called quasi passing off claim. And that was the case I started off reading. If anybody didn't see it already, it's the Bollinger case, 1959, and it established a private, I would say, a right of action for what's called quasi passing off, meaning that if this winery, they did not own the Champagne district in 1959. They did not create the Champagne district, in this area of the UK or Wales, but instead they had goodwill to it, and there was 12 of them, and they came together and they all sued when this other company made what's called Spanish Champagne, and they used their good name, Spanish Champagne. So if you think about it, you got Bitcoin, Bitcoin, and then you've got the good name. Okay, then you've got this other version called BTC Bitcoin or Bitcoin BTC or Bitcoin Core. It's a slightly different version, but they're still using the name Bitcoin, even though. And so now the people who, like Dr. Wright, he's saying, well, look, I invested and developed on that protocol, believing Bitcoin was what it said in the white paper. So it's very similar. I would say it's similar in facts to this Spanish Champagne case. It would be a right of action, because that's the first thing the other side's going to try to say is they say, well, he didn't create Bitcoin. He's not Satoshi, so he can't bring this case. And there's already plenty of slanted articles on that already that don't read the law that are saying that. Oh, he can't bring that type of case because, okay, well, that's not what the court said here. The court said that these people did not own the Champagne district. They didn't create the Champagne district. They just had rights to the goodwill. And that's what Dr. Wright is claiming, is rights to the goodwill on it. So the case is pretty good. I don't know, man. It seems like it's gonna go past motion to dismiss. It looks like, I would say, very likely. And I would say the other thing I wanted to bring up was this Kraken case. I thought I wrote a summary on it, but I can't find it. So let me just pull up the case. Basically, what happened was Kraken wrote a response to the passing off case in 2022, and basically it's kind of slanted here because it's about the Satoshi identity. So a lot of that doesn't apply. So taking all that aside, they're saying that the Bitcoin system operates in a certain way, and that consensus rules have allowed the market to know BTC is Bitcoin. So the market has decided. That's their ultimate defense. And this is, I need to go further on understanding their defense here, because this is likely going to be the best defense that they'll bring forward on this case. So Dr. Wright's already seen this. He knows what defense they're going to try to bring. And this is a great opportunity for these guys to come forward and debate, dude. So if anybody else wants to come up and speak, go ahead and jump up, and we can chat for a little bit on this. It talks about the soft fork and then hard forks in this thing from Kraken. We got Bitcoin network, mining blocks. Let me think. History of soft forks. It's about a 36-page response. So we got segregated witness. It goes through all the history from Kraken talks about, and then it ultimately results in how. Oh, it talked about Jimmy Wynn. It ultimately results in the market saying that the market has decided that BTC is Bitcoin. Therefore, Dr. Wright, in this case, has no right to bring a case like this because it's already decided, and he waived his right, they're saying, by not doing it sooner. He should have done this a long time ago. So they're trying to bring up what's called waiver. Now, the waiver could be problematic because they're saying, well, why didn't he do this 12 years ago? Why didn't he do this 15 years ago? And that's a strong defense, because there is statute of limitations on things. If somebody was passing off under a name, you have to, kind of jump on it and act. And I don't know usually it's 5 years, but I don't know what the statute of limitation is on something like this. That could be problematic, because they're definitely bringing up the waiver defense. Defendants, Kraken exchange, passing off, Kraken exchange. So it is admitted that the Kraken website sets out various facts and matters related to the Kraken exchange and Bitcoin. The Kraken website uses the name Bitcoin and refers to it as BTC. It is admitted that the Kraken blog and the Kraken website includes links to the white paper. As referenced in 46 and 40 in paragraph 46, it was BCH that was created on August 2017 as a result of the minority chain split and hard fork, and BSV was created after that. That's what they say. I've heard otherwise, that there wasn't actually a hard fork. That I'm not sure I understand that technically. So, but that's what they're saying. They say here that, okay, paragraph 53, claimants. Okay, here we go. As a result, as the first sentence, contrary to the assertion in the first sentence, there is no complaint that defendants have used the name Bitcoin Core. So right here, they're saying that Bitcoin Core is not a real name. So I don't know where that name comes from. BTC Core, Bitcoin Core. Tufty the Cat said that was made up by Dr. Wright. I don't know where that comes from. Kurt would probably know. Let's see, paragraph 56. So yeah, that's.
Gavin.
Dude. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question on the statute of limitations or whatever that thing is called, that the years have passed. Would that be a reason for the court to say, go away, we won't even talk about the case, or will that then come up during trial?
It would come up before trial, way before trial. And that's probably
okay. So that means if it comes to trial, that basically means that the court doesn't care about how long this has been going on for.
Yeah, they'll dismiss it way before trial if it's past statute of limitations.
Okay.
Yeah, it has to survive. And the reason I think there's a good chance it will survive is because he already made it past the pleadings on this case with Kraken. So, remember that case was going to go forward. So they tried to get rid of it and they couldn't. So as long as he can plead out the same type of argument that he did before, then it will likely go forward. Makes sense? Yeah, if anybody else wants to come up, Vince, if you want to come up, dude, feel free to say what's up, and we can just touch base on this case and anything else. I mean, there's like, nonstop, dude, we got to get somebody from BTC to debate Dr. Wright. And I don't know who that's going to be, but who can debate Dr. Wright, Crypto Voyager? Anybody, any suggestions?
Debate him?
Yeah.
Without calling him names and all that other stuff and retorting to that? I don't think anybody in BTC.
Hold on, I think I got background noise, Vince. You want to mute out for a second while you're coming in?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Crypto Voyager.
Yeah, they all laugh at it, and so honestly, in good faith, I don't think anybody can debate. But if this case goes through, well, somebody has to be on the other side of the stand. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, they've got attorneys. So Kraken hired this law firm to represent them, and the attorneys will for sure do it. I mean, if that's all there is an attorney, maybe they'll debate Dr. Wright on this. Somebody really should step up. I don't see what the problem is, why they don't want to step up and debate him. He was calling out David Katz last night from XRP.
Because they only have things to lose. Everything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. And they know their position. So they know that the position is on sand. They themselves even admit that. But the defense is, we don't care, it's an open source protocol. So if the court says, yes, but that's not the way that the MIT license works, and they at the same time admit that they have changed everything, yeah, well, then it doesn't look good. So I don't think they're going to debate this. They're going to go talk with my lawyer. There's a lawsuit at the moment. I don't have to talk about this. Number go up.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like that. It looks like they've got a Michael Saylor would be a great guy to debate with, man. It would be so freaking huge if we could get Michael Saylor to do it, because he would be the perfect one. He's so popular. He knows Bitcoin.
Maybe after the court case, he can go down into the catacombs and talk with us. But at the moment, he's way high up. I don't think he would want to talk with us.
Yeah, I
There,
mean,
there is no upside. There is no upside for him.
yeah, yeah, it's not likely. Somebody suggested the guy Jimmy Cho, I think, in the cowboy hat. He used to go around, or also Tone Vays.
Tone Base doesn't know. There's a video with the Emperor of Bitcoin. I forgot his name now.
Daniel.
Daniel Kravitz, exactly. Yeah, yeah. There's a small video, like I don't know, 20, 30 seconds, where Daniel Kravitz asks him quite easy questions, and Tone Base is sliding like he's on ice, yeah. So Tone Base doesn't know any technicals.
Well,
He
what
wouldn't be able to do.
Antonopoulos, man, he was up on the stand in the.
Antonopoulos, yeah, that would be the person that maybe, and he has the vita to show for it because he wrote some books and yada yada yada. You can also put Seyfer Namus. You know what? We could actually debate this with any author that has ever written a book about Bitcoin. That's the person that would debate this, because well, they would sell more copies of their book. And then we could. I was hearing Kurt an hour or so ago. They only are focused on their niche. They're not generalists. So the second that you come up with, yeah, but the timestamp server then doesn't work. What does that mean? And then, yeah, well, but again, there is no upside for that team.
Vince, you want to chime in?
Hey Gavin, how you doing, man?
Good, man. It's a great day. How you doing?
Awesome. We're getting some nice cooler weather here in Miami, so it's nice. But so I was going over the pleadings here, his original complaint. I hadn't seen it until now, but I think, the way I understand it, though, because I think lack of standing is definitely an issue. However, we have to remember where he's coming, at this from, which is, this is a consumer fraud protection case. So he's not necessarily saying, "Hey, look, I'm Satoshi and I invented this, and I have rights to this, and they can't call it Bitcoin because it's mine." He's coming at this as, the owner of BSV, or a significant person from BSV, and saying this has affected my BSV, that you are calling your product Bitcoin when in fact it should not be. So, because if you read in here that, basically everything, and I think that that's one of the reasons that he's also invited others that may have a case that have been, somehow affected by BTC alleging to be Bitcoin, or passing themselves off as being Bitcoin. Does that make any sense? Or
Well, here's what makes sense to me. There's a case in 1959 that was 12 families came together, French companies producing wine in the Champagne district, and they sued a company called Costa Brava Wine Company, because they were selling wine in the Champagne district, and they had developed a brand out of the Champagne brand with these French companies. They didn't necessarily own the Champagne district at all, but they had goodwill and good faith into it. And so it was part of their goodwill. Champagne was part of their goodwill, is what they claimed. And the other side, Costa Brava Wine Company, they said, well, we got this wine and we're calling it Spanish Champagne. And everybody bought it and it was popular. So people thought, the claim was, well, people thought that it was the Champagne district wine, and it wasn't. It was something else. So the court heard a motion to dismiss in the 1950s, and the defendant said that these guys had no standing because they didn't own the Champagne district. They did not own the rights to that, think Craig, he doesn't own Satoshi. He's not Satoshi. He didn't create Bitcoin. So that's their claim here. That was the defendant's claim, similar to this case. But the court said it doesn't matter because they ruled in what's called a quasi passing off action is possible without exclusive rights. And therefore, even though these guys did not own the Champagne wine district, they still had standing and the case went forward. And because of that, so it's what would be called like a private right of action or established right of action for a case like what Craig is trying to bring to come forward. Another note that's important, Vince, about the kind of the history of this is in 2022, a similar case like this was brought by Craig Wright against Kraken and Coinbase, amongst others, and they responded to that complaint in 2022. Let's see, it looks like November 28th with an attorney, and they brought a defense. Now that case was then combined with the Satoshi trial, so it made it past.
Was that case combined with the Satoshi trial by Craig, or by the wishes of Craig, or by the wishes of the court, or by the wishes of the Kraken people?
The court.
Because I know that those claims are together, and I know that Mellor said, well, these claims are all together, and they all hinge on the identity of Satoshi, and then from then on we can go further.
Yep. So yeah, the court
and because the identity wasn't done, then basically all the other claims also went away. But the quasi passing off case is not just champagne; it's also tequila. It's also geographic. What's it called? Geographic indication. And there are a lot of countries have that, where they say this ham can only be called Parma ham if it comes from Parma. This tequila can only be called tequila if it comes from tequila. Stuff like that. It is well-known case law.
It is. It's not a slam dunk in any way. So I'm not saying, oh, this is a slam dunk. But because if you look, there's other cases in the past about, I remember, I think it was Xerox. I don't know if Xerox lost this case. I think they did. But it was like back in the 70s or 60s. And if you, in America, they had the Xerox copy machine, and everybody was using the name Xerox and thinking that was what a copy machine was. So they actually filed a case on it. And I think they lost on that, if I remember correctly, because it was, it was untimely or something like that. So there's a timeline that has to be brought in. You can't wait too long. Otherwise they might lose on a waiver argument. And so, yeah, but I will say this.
Right. But
go ahead.
No, what I was going to say was that this is basically what I was talking about, that anyone could bring up this case since it's a consumer fraud protection case. I think as long as you've been affected, and not even necessarily affected, by merely owning Bitcoin, you could become a participant and have standing in this case. So, and regardless of whether there was any adverse effect to that person or not, because there's always that chance that it could adversely affect that person. So, yeah. So the lack of standing was the first thing that I thought of when he first mentioned this in the tweet, and then he had tweeted some more about it, and then I understood what he was doing. Was that, especially when he started inviting others to be included in the claim as well. Now, potentially anybody else obviously didn't work on Bitcoin, have nothing to do with it. They're definitely not Satoshi, but they still have standing in a consumer fraud protection case.
Yeah, the consumer side of this case is another cause of action here. So you do have the consumer law that he's also under. So let's say that they do say he has no standing to bring the passing off claim. Okay, that's okay. If he loses that, there is still the consumer fraud, the consumer protection side, which is a really strong area of law, man. That is, well, at least in the States, it's extremely strict, very narrow. So I don't know enough about how they do the consumer law in the UK to comment on it. But it is a separate cause of action for sure. And it's that, along with let's see, we got claims for, what are the other ones? You got, oh yeah, the copyright claim is rather confusing. I think I did a video on that already, trying to understand why he's bringing this copyright claim, and that one's going to take a little more a reminder of exactly how this applies. So we'll have to see. Let me see if I'm going to not take that call. Okay, yeah. So that was. If anybody else has any comments, feel free to jump up. We just wanted to do a short space on this and kind of just come up and comment a couple things about this case a little bit, and bring the attention also back to the debate. Dude, we got to have a debate. We were talking about tone vase or possibly authors. That was a good idea, Crypto Voyager. Authors. So authors would be Antonopoulos. Who else has a motive to sell their Bitcoin book that could debate Craig about Bitcoin Core and possibly representing Bitcoin Core? Antonopoulos is the only one I can think of. So I don't know if you guys think of anybody else. We gotta find somebody to debate Craig on this case. I think that'd be a badass debate, dude. Wouldn't that be cool to get him on stage with Richard Hart? Richard Hart would be cool. I was thinking the ultimate would be Michael Saylor, but that's like a long shot. If we had Michael Saylor, that would be like front page news. He would be awesome. Dude, Michael Saylor. That would be incredible. But I will say
it wouldn't be much of a match, though.
It wouldn't be,
It wouldn't be much of a match.
but it would be entertaining. That's the key. We're not doing it for it's entertaining purposes, right? That's the goal. Is we want entertainment for this, and we want exposure. Dude, I want to, the more exposure to it, the better. Like people don't know. They think my friends who I review this case with, who like had Bitcoin a long time ago, a lawyer guy that I'm friends with, he's like, oh yeah, I got Bitcoin. And I told him, I said, now the Bitcoin you have is actually been split up. You have multiple Bitcoins. He's like, what? How's that even work? And so I explained it to him, and I showed him this case. He's like, so you're saying that this Bitcoin I have might not be Bitcoin? And I said, well, it's not decided by the court yet, but that's what the claim says. So he's like, huh, that's so it's starting to get in the minds of people out there to at least look into this. And that's what's important, is people start looking at, well, wait a second, what is going on? Because it's been 5 years, 7 years since they had all the debates with Roger Ver, and Roger Ver was the one making like, oh, dude, he got my attention on this at that point. He was doing a great job at exposing all this information. Roger Ver he's not representing Bitcoin Core, so he's not going to debate Craig. He's not going to debate Craig for sure. But he'd be cool. Is Roger Ver in jail? I don't know. I hope not, man. They really, he shouldn't be prosecuted by the U.S., being that he's not even a U.S. citizen. That's just problematic.
I thought he got released on bail.
Pick up your car?
Is he released?
I think so. That's what I heard.
Okay. Hopefully he is, man. I mean, I saw some videos about like free Roger Ver. We don't want to have the U.S. overreaching into other jurisdictions prosecuting people. That's just totally wrong. So yeah, that's improper. So hopefully, whether you support Roger or not, I mean, dude, come on. The guy's not even a U.S. citizen. They got no jurisdiction to prosecute him. So yeah, dude, that's, I just wanted to bring this up a little bit. The standing idea of the lane to come in on the passing off side, the consumer protection thing is going to be a little bit more complicated, and see the remedies on that. But looks like this case is going to be fireworks, man. And I got the Kraken reply. So we'll keep an eye on it. And yeah. So Vince, any final thoughts before we close up?
I just think the consumer fraud angle is the angle. It has to be the angle. It just makes sense. Let them. I think that all the other stuff is a diversion to distract, and all he needs is enough to get past the motion to dismiss, and he's good. Because everything else will hold up.
If he gets past the motion to dismiss, dude, he's going into trial. He'll be representing himself, like he'll be the attorney on the case, and That's sure as hell going to be interesting, man, and entertaining, because if he's his own attorney, he's representing the case as the attorney. He's arguing the case the whole time. He's the one doing the depositions. He's the one cross-examining everybody. I really hope that he gets Ager Hansen called, by the way. He said he wanted to get back in the case and see if he could help and make it up to him. So hopefully, maybe Dr. Wright will give Ager Hansen a second chance. Yeah. So.
I thought you were being serious for a moment.
He wants a second chance. He called, he said, this time is going to be different. It's going to be different. He guaranteed it. He gave his word. So, don't worry about this. It's going to be different. Yeah. Yeah. So it'll be,
But another,
go ahead.
I was going to say another thing is real quick. Somebody had mentioned something about having all the pleadings in writing,
I wanted to get the payoff.
but I mean, in federal court, especially, at least here, I mean, that's how most of it is done. Very rarely,
That's how it's done
until
here.
you get to it. Yeah, very rarely do you get to a point where court appearances. I mean, if anything, a telephonic, quick, conference call
It's just to go to
what do you call it? Planning. What do you call the planning stages or whatever?
Let me bring up John. John, come up really quick. John Pap. What's up? I'm going to send you an invite.
Case conference. That's what I was thinking of. Case conference.
Case conference. Yeah, I mean, in federal court and district court, that's how it works. Most all your stuff is all through pleadings. You don't have any hearings. If you remember, like the Wright Kleiman trial, the Kleiman Wright trial, they had the trial, but that was about it. Like he flew down there for that week, and yeah, jpaps went to that trial. He was there. That's why one of the things I want to bring him up. You were there at the first day of trial, right, John?
Yes, I was. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, how are you guys?
Doing good, man. Good to see you again.
Yeah, I just came up. I mean, what do you guys? Oh, the passing off. Oh yeah. Oh, this is gonna be nice.
Passing off, baby.
Yeah. This one's gonna be something else. I must say. You know what? Just when you think you got Satoshi cornered or you got the guy running, he just turns around and throws one of these. Man, this guy's something else.
Yeah, I mean. And I was talking earlier about the standing of this because there's an old Champaign case that was brought back in the 50s that says that the Champaign district, they all came together, 12 companies, and they sued because this other company called Spanish Champagne was using the name Spanish Champagne and passing off with their good reputation of the Champaign district. And they didn't own the Champaign district. They didn't create the Champaign district. They weren't Satoshi, in their pleadings. But they still had standing in for a quasi passing off claim. And that's what Dr. Wright's coming in under. And if you remember the Kraken case, this case already got brought in 2022 against Kraken and Coinbase. And it did survive the motion to dismiss phase. And then it was combined with the Satoshi case. So it never got heard. So now he's coming forward, full steam ahead. And let's see if he.
Well, the strength of this case, as far as I see it, I mean, look, we have the Bitcoin white paper, which is it's pretty clearly describes what Bitcoin is, right? And then you have BTC, and then further than that, you have the developers of BTC that have straight out confessed to BTC not even being Bitcoin, not hardly having any lines of code from the original implementation. So it's clearly a passing off by their own admission. So I don't know how they can win this one.
Yeah, they said that, I think, what was the name? One of the key developers, Jameson Lopp, he said that they've changed
0.06% of code, which basically it's what? I mean, it's like buying a Honda Civic, ripping everything out, and then taking the badge and putting it on a Lamborghini and saying, look at my Civic.
I mean, this is a Honda Civic, or this is a Lamborghini right here. Look, it says Lamborghini. Do you see it?
Yeah.
And one of the points Vince was making is the consumer side, because even if he doesn't have the passing off side, well, the consumer side, because you got the least sophisticated consumers out there, And just every day, Joe Blow is thinking, "Hey, I want to get some Bitcoin. I got a cop buddy. He's a great buddy of mine. I've known him since college, one of my best friends. And every time Bitcoin pumps, BTC pumps, he always texts me. He says, "Is now a good time to buy?" Because he's the least sophisticated consumer. He doesn't know shit. And
You use the word unsophisticated. You have no idea. I talk with a lot of people. You have no idea how unsophisticated means. These people are absolutely 1,000,000% clueless. They have no clue. They have no clue. And the thing is, the education from like the genuine Bitcoin side, I would say it's a little bit lacking. But I mean, it's not a case of Bitcoin against BTC. It's a case of Bitcoin versus BTC versus the talking heads on Twitter, the talking heads on whatever Facebook groups, mass media. I mean, this is clear. To me, it's a clear. It's a conspiracy against the actual Bitcoin protocol. And when you think about what they're defending, these cannot be honest actors. You're not defending anything that's right or proper. They're clearly defending something that is premised on a lie. I mean, look, Bitcoin, peer-to-peer electronic cash, facilitating micropayments. Where are the micropayments when you have, forget $25 fees, which is what we have. Let's talk about 50-cent fees. How are you going to send a micropayment with a 50-cent fee? Who's going to buy a $2 coffee with a 50-cent fee? I won't. No. The fee for me to buy a coffee better be 5 cents, 4 cents. And that is with enough coffees and enough transactions, you'd be looking at your balance at the end of the month and say, oh man, I paid like $9.50 in fees this month. It's a bit much, you know? Mm-hmm. And these guys are trying to pass off BTC as being some kind of a digital cash that can actually be used. Never. Maybe if you're sending hundreds of thousands of dollars for whatever illegal activity you're doing, you don't care to pay $100. It's okay, because beats wrapping up $100K in a suitcase and sending it across the country that could be found by anybody. So this is what BTC is still going to be used for. So the way I see it, it's it's a matter of time before the law swoops in and says enough's enough.
Yeah, and I will say the law does have a duty to protect those, like you said, the least sophisticated consumer. They're clueless. They got no idea. They go on Coinbase or one of these websites and they say, I want to get some of that Bitcoin, and it says Bitcoin on there. They buy it. They think it's Bitcoin. Like it says Lamborghini on the car, but
right.
They've changed. What's wrong with that? It's not it's actually a Honda under there. What?
Well, we're also in the middle of another attack vector here. I've been watching quite a few reviews of Money Electric from various YouTubers. It's incredible. There is no way everybody is lying this consistently. There's no way. It's like they all have a main script that they're probably allowed to divert maybe 5%. It's all the same talking points. Everyone is disagreeing why Peter Todd is not Satoshi, why he's not Satoshi. No one is even mentioning. Forget Craig Wright. Forget this guy completely. We live in a society where everyone always says what? Zig when everybody zags. They tell you always pull the contrarian move. When people say don't look here, that's where you should be looking. And then when it comes time to look there, well, everyone's not looking. Everyone's jumping on the old bandwagon against Craig Wright.
So you're saying there's talking heads on YouTube that are repeating the same script?
Well, everybody. When I've seen 4 separate reviews of Money Electric, and I might as well have seen the same one. And I love the old. I just saw Money Electric, so you don't have to. Oh, I love that one. Man, how lazy do you have to be? You're literally investing your own money and sitting down on your fat ass and watching a YouTube video is too much work, you deserve to lose everything. At this point, you have guys like Satoshi, yourself, but like let's focus here on Satoshi. This guy has been at it for years, at absolutely no profit for himself. This guy has just been educating, repeating. Man, everybody, whoever loses at this point, if BTC were to be shut down tomorrow, you ask for it. You ask for it. You're willfully asked to lose everything because the information's there. I mean, think about this. You go and buy you're gonna go buy a condominium. Are you gonna buy your condominium eyes closed, or are you gonna say, you know what? Let me send a building inspector in here. Let's check the electric. You know, let's see if there's ever been a flood. Let's do a little bit of research. And people are, and these are people that are buying maybe a $150,000, $200,000 condominium. In some countries, way less than that. Yet you have people willing to dump way more than that, and sometimes even millions, into BTC without ever researching anything. When I'm trying to buy whatever I try to buy, whatever I'm interested in buying, I look through other people's reviews. And the ones I read the closest are always the negative ones. They're always the negative ones. Because I want to see what did this person say? Why did he say something negative? And then I try to pick apart my experiences or the product based on their reviews, based on honest other people's reviews as well, and just to get different points of view. And then obviously, you know, use a little bit of logic, reasoning, and you make up your own mind. These people don't want to hear anything negative about BTC. It's crazy. I would want to hear everything negative about BTC. I'd want to hear it all. And then I would make a judgment call, which is actually, you know, what I ended up doing. That's how I found my way to BSV, obviously.
Yeah, so you looked and did all the research, and then...
Yeah, it wasn't even long. I've said it before. 24 hours, 75% sure he was Satoshi. 48 hours, 100%. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. If you don't want to know, you will not know. If you don't want to discover, you will not discover. That's all. If you have an inquisitive mind and the truth is something that you find the truth is something you're inherently drawn to, it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much.
Yeah.
I mean, look, everybody calling Craig Wright a scammer. I've never heard him asking me for money. I've never heard him ask anybody for money.
No.
I've never heard Craig Wright say, hey, you know, buy BSV. I've never heard him say, invest your money. I've never heard anything like that. As opposed to, what, the BTC conferences? Yeah, we need more people under the tent. Come on, we got to get more people in. Buy Bitcoin. Dressed up as a dragon.
Yeah.
Come on. What a clown show.
Yeah, you know, it gets frustrating. It does get frustrating when I see these people like this guy Luke. There's so many people. They keep talking about how BTC is going to go up, and they go on all these things about the price in the future. Oh, it's going to go up. Michael Saylor said it actually was going to go up forever to infinity. Not recently. So
yeah. I saw an interview, Gavin. I saw an interview with Tim Draper. Damn it, I don't remember who interviewed him, but he was telling him about what BTC is supposed to do, what BTC can't do. And especially at that time, we're talking about 4 or 5 years ago, Tim Draper was like, you know, a know-it-all in the Bitcoin space.
Yeah.
Man, the guy was clueless. He had no idea. Like Tone Vase. When Krawitz years and years ago interviewed him, Tone Vase had zero clue. But Tone Vase, he's a clear idiot. But I mean, Draper, you figure, you know, the guy's in a suit. You figure, you know, he's more professional looking. You know, you figure he knows something. The guy was another bobo, unbelievable. And these clowns that are literally talking heads, they know nothing. They think for themselves 0%. Yet these are the people the masses are following, because it's not what you say, it's who's holding the microphone. It's as simple as that. You could be the smartest guy in the room, but you could be talking to empty air, which is what most BSVers are doing. And then you can have complete fools that have a stage, they have a lights, and have a microphone, and they got a big loudspeaker. And they're sitting there and they're spewing their shit. And everyone's eating it up. It's crazy.
Yeah, that does seem to be a pretty good analogy right there. It looks like they had the big BTC conference with Michael Saylor, and another one is Jack Mallers. Did you know that Jack Mallers his father is the head of one of the heads of the CFTC? I think it's the CFTC exchange. It's this what is it called? It's like one of these big financial exchanges in Chicago. Like he comes from he comes from the finance background, dude. He comes from this the old boomer world, dude, big time. And
I would have never saw that coming.
Now you would you start to see this young kid, Jack Mallers, he's got all this great, BTC, and he said that Satoshi doesn't matter, and all these things,
Of course.
Yeah.
That's the new narrative. That's the new narrative. The appeal is going to come in. I'm hoping it should be accepted. It should be overturned. So naturally, who cares who Satoshi is? Who cares? Because it's going to be Craig Wright. So, but who cares? It's not important anymore. Because now we have Bitcoin. Bitcoin is its own. They're starting to call it like its own living entity. Like it's like self-aware. You can't control Bitcoin. It does what it wants. Nobody can control it. Blockstream controls it. Right? The developers control it. But these people talk from both sides of their mouth. On one side, you have Adam Back, a Bitcoin developer, and on the other side, you have another guy on the very same stage saying how nobody controls Bitcoin. So I mean, choose. Is Blockstream controlling your Bitcoin, or is the hand of God controlling your Bitcoin? Which one is it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the claim, is BTC passing off as Bitcoin, in this new case. And it'll be, some of the consumer stuff is going to be very strong. I think how this consumer side, and one of the things that's claiming is that the investors and consumers have been led to believe that BTC remains faithful to the original protocol.
Yeah, it does, as long as you don't actually read the original protocol.
Yeah, well, the thing is about the consumers, they actually have, they're consumers, so the court thinks they're dumb and they're least sophisticated. So the court actually is required to protect them, and that's why these companies are required to disclose, hey, consumer, we're not actually Bitcoin, we're something else. They have a duty to disclose that to the consumer, but they're not doing that. You have a duty. If you're a consumer and you go and buy a car, like I think Vince said earlier, and you think you're buying a Lamborghini, but it's actually a Honda underneath, they have a duty to tell you that, because you're just buying the car. You don't necessarily need to know about the car.
Let me make a little prediction.
Yeah.
All of this that's happening now, this whole BTC passing off as Bitcoin, everything that is status quo in the reality of the day, I think in a decade from now, we're going to look back at this time and say, how the hell was everybody this stupid? How the hell did this happen? Because it's impossible. It's impossible that those that can see so clearly, and the majority of people can't see at all. They have no eyes. It's the differential it's so great. It's not like some people know some stuff and the other people know a little bit more. It's like you either know everything or they know nothing at all. And not only do they know nothing at all, they know nothing at all so well that they can teach nothing at all to everybody else, which is what's been happening.
Yeah, seems like exactly what's been happening.
Hey, Gavin, can I say something real quick?
Please, go ahead, Vince.
Okay, not to change the subject, I'm sorry, but I was just going over this while you guys were talking here. The whole case is laid out. You only really need to read from sections 9 through 15, and that's it. That's really actually it. I mean, he claims, number 9, hey, look, the identity of Satoshi is irrelevant, so he's not claiming to be Satoshi in this. What he's basically getting at is that Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever he may be, laid out this white paper and set out what Bitcoin is supposed to be. The protocol is carved in stone, or should remain set in stone. And what he's saying, his standing is that his position is that, look, I've invested money into BSV, which, is and relying on the Bitcoin protocol and the Bitcoin white paper. I've invested money in this thing, developing it, being that the white paper and the Bitcoin protocol is not supposed to change. Now, these people, Bitcoin Core, has come in there and they've changed it, which is fine. They're allowed to change it, but they just cannot call themselves Bitcoin, because now it's affecting my business and the money that and it's causing me harm in my business, and that I've invested money into BSV, which does follow the protocol. So he's not even really saying, that BSV is Bitcoin. Okay, he doesn't need to say that. He just says, right here in section 14, the second sentence says the disruption of his legitimate expectations and the undervaluation of BSV, which adheres to the original Bitcoin vision, provide grounds for substantial compensation. Yep. Okay. So he's coming at this from a really smart angle, which doesn't need standing. His standing is, hey, you got the white paper, regardless of whomever Satoshi may be. This was these are one of the conditions that a Bitcoin was supposed to follow, that is supposed to be set in stone. These guys come along, they change it, and now I relied on the white paper in good faith and invested all this money in developing BSV and further enhancing Bitcoin, but still holding true to the foundational aspects of Bitcoin in the white paper, and they're ruining it. Then he goes down into sections 100, where he's actually looking for relief, or his main arguments actually. Let me see here.
Well, let me stop you really quick and go to 28 and 29 first, because if you look at, there's the MIT license that does talk about, hey, this is open source, and yes, people can change the protocol. They can make their own protocol, and he uses the example of Ethereum. They said, look, yeah, Ethereum, they used elements of the Bitcoin code base. There's nothing wrong with that. And they marketed themselves as Ethereum. That's totally legal, what they did. And it doesn't claim to be Bitcoin. It represents itself completely separate. That is absolutely competition and legal. So it gives a
sorry, Gavin. I gotta get into a meeting. I gotta drop out. Please upload this on YouTube. I'd like to hear the rest of it.
I will. Absolutely, Joe.
All right.
Good to see you, buddy.
Everyone have a great day, and I shall see and hear from all you again. Ciao.
Ciao. Yeah, so the 29 and 28 is right where he says, you've got this other, they do have a right to change the code as long as they call it something else. Ethereum, for example. So
Exactly. So, he's not asking for his relief to be, hey, look, I want to be called Bitcoin. No, he's just saying that you just don't have a right to be called Bitcoin because you're affecting my business and my investment, and you're causing me harm, or you have caused me harm.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. What was the point you were going to make on the other paragraph? On something.
Yeah, I lost it. Where he's actually asking, where his allegations are. Well, let's see what specific claims he has.
Well, 156 is the breach of the consumer protection laws. So misrepresentation by BTC Core may also constitute breach of consumer protection laws under the Consumer Protection Unfair Trading Regulations 2008. These regulations, misleading actions that cause or are likely to cause consumers to take transactional decisions they would not otherwise have taken are prohibited. So the presentation of BTC as Bitcoin and the downplaying of the material changes, introducing through SegWit, Taproot, and other modifications, has led consumers and investors to make decisions on false information. So the failure to accurately disclose the nature of these changes and their impact on identity of Bitcoin constitutes a misleading practice that actionable items that are actionable under the regulations. There's your consumer protection claim right there.
Exactly. I mean, it's as simple as that. And that relieves him of the standing. But he does also have a case that where he's been materially affected, and because of this, uh, of them calling themselves Bitcoin, where he's been caused financial harm.
Yep, definitely.
So it really is really smart. Really is really smart, and that's it. And then I think the consumer fraud angle is great because it involves just really anyone that could be affected, whether they have been affected, because that's going to be a tough argument, because they're going to say, well, look, most people became millionaires, multimillionaires because of it. So I don't see where the harm was. However, it's about potential future harm that can be caused to these people.
Right. Well, I guess it would. Yeah, that's a good point. It's going to be a good argument for the other side. Bitcoin Core is going to argue, well, look, people weren't harmed because the price went up and they made money. So how were they harmed? That's a good point. I think that'll be a defense. And we can see the Kraken response to the original passing off claim to interpret what their defense is likely to be. So they're going to, what they're going to say is that they're going to argue the waiver argument, which is going to be, hey, this should have been brought a long time ago. If Craig wanted to do this, it should have been 10 years ago. He took too long. That's one of their defenses. And they're also going to say that.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, really, if you want to look at the statute of limitations, it's when Bitcoin Core implemented, SegWit and Taproot, that I think, if anything, that's when the clock would start ticking. Not back in 2011, but when the change occurred. And then you also have a lot of leeway in that. Okay, well, they made this change, but then even though I'm perhaps maybe 2 years past the statute of limitations, or however many years past it, it wasn't until that point that the realization came how it would affect the future of Bitcoin, and how far off it really is from the foundational white paper.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see, because Kraken's gonna looks like they're gonna be one of the defendants here. So they're gonna come forward and likely combine themselves as defendants. So we'll see. I mean, I think that's what they'll do, and they'll all come together under the same law firm probably, or maybe a couple different law firms, and then they're gonna respond. They did say that on their website with Copa. They said they were gonna respond. They got notice of the suit. So yeah, dude, this is gonna go forward, man. We're gonna see some action on this pretty soon. So rather exciting. So, well, I think that's a good place to end there, Vince. If you want to say any last words in closing, we can kind of wrap this thing up, man. And any last.
Bless you.
My last words, I'm excited, man. I'm excited. I mean, this thing is like just once in a lifetime opportunity. I try to tell as many people as I can. It's almost like I feel bad if I don't, that I'm holding back, just because if it were anybody else, anybody that I knew or came in contact with, why didn't you tell me this? This is insane. Right. Some will listen, some won't. But this case is, if and it doesn't take much. I don't have any legal background whatsoever, but it's really easy to understand what's going on once you kind of dig into it and put a little bit of effort in it.
Yeah, and it looks like it's very, I had this show a couple days ago with Mitch. He goes by Binary, and he really did a good job. I thought a good job on his opinion of the strategy, and how potentially Craig lost the other case on purpose, potentially. And the grounds of it, and I know some people have said that, kind of look like, well, he sure didn't try to win the case. He didn't bring his best case, that's for sure. So we know that much. And so, he brought a case, but it wasn't really that good. And if he lost it if that's the case, then he was actually saving up his juice for this case, potentially, to come in for the big one. And this is definitely the big case. I mean, this is the big, this is what do they call the big grand finale type of case, man. The all marbles on everything on deck. So the Satoshi case was more personal. That was like, yeah, that was cool for him. He wanted to have that title, I guess. But Doesn't matter to this case at all. And that's why we talk about this passing off claim, the quasi passing off claim for the Spanish champagne company that was found that the Champagne district had standing to bring a case for passing off, even though they didn't own it, they didn't create it. So yeah, well,
But they made, but they made substantial investment in the continuation of what in the foundation was. Same thing with, with Kraken and the Bitcoin white paper. So they relied on everything being, staying the same. And that's why they continue, now I don't know the case, but I'm assuming that, they spent money on infrastructure and building more winery and being able to produce more wine. They relied upon that. And that's what Craig did. He relied upon, the white paper continuing on. And that's why he made that investment in BSV. And they went ahead and changed it.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. The same, very similar set of facts here with the with this Champagne case, and I think that's what the court's going to find. It's going to be hard to get this case thrown out. We'll see if Craig can survive the practice of law, being the attorney on the case. So let's keep an eye on it, and I'll end the space there, man. Thank you, Vince. Thank everybody else for tuning in. Follow your host, subscribe. I'll get this on YouTube at some point, and I'll see you guys at the top. All right, later.